reaction coming in right now. Look how many of you have come to the masterclass stage. Love it. Are we all enjoying the show so far? Yes. Who has sunburn? Yes, I am proud of us Brits. No sunburn? Amazing. So welcome to the masterclass stage. This is all about trying to suck some knowledge out of people that have a little bit more experience than maybe us, so that we can learn and grow, become more experienced riders, maybe even learn to ride like a cop, which is what we're about to do. We've got the legend Ryan, who is from over the pond in Canada, come over from the FortNine YouTube channel. If you've watched any of his videos, you will understand why I'm very excited by the fact that he is here joining us. I'm Vanessa Ruck, the girl on a bike, the host of this stage, and I hope you're going to enjoy the session. I'm going to be sitting like front row. I don't know why I want to ride by a cop, but I just know you're so funny. No pressure. I'm setting expectations really high. A quick one, all the ladies, we are doing a ladies photo at 8 o'clock on Saturday, so tomorrow, outside Ragley Hall, not 8 o'clock, 6 o'clock. That was a trick to make sure you're paying attention. 6 o'clock in the evening. You don't need your bike, all the girls, we just want to try and showcase how many females there are here this year. It'll be more than last year. Next year we'll do it again and there'll be even more, but the more we see girls doing it and show girls doing it, the more we all realise and all the little girls can see that it's possible and we can all ride too. But without further ado, Ryan, over to you. Do you want to just swap mic?
Test. Oh, thank you. Yeah, no need to still applause. No, it's not necessary. No. So my name is Ryan. This is how to ride like a cop. I want to share with you guys some tips, some tricks, some really unusual techniques that are particular to police motorcyclists while they're fresh. Because 2 weeks ago, I just did the police motorcycle officer certification. I got my wings, my silver wings, as they call them in Canada and the States, which is a bit unusual and a bit useless because I'm not a police officer. Not even close, actually. But there you go. What I do is I have a YouTube channel called FortNine, and it's grown to a size where some people have started to pay attention to it, for better or worse. And so a few months ago, I got a call from a police sergeant. Normally for me, that would be very bad news. But this time, he wasn't interested in all the less than legal things that I film myself doing and stupidly upload to the internet. This time he just said, you think you're hot shit? Come take the police motor course and we'll see. So I did. You don't turn down an offer like that. The reason he was a bit grandiose about it is because the police motor course is one of the hardest. At one time, it was the hardest specialty module that police officers could take in Canada and the States. They share this course. The police pride themselves on this being the most emotionally draining motorcycle course in existence. I don't know if it's true, but it's definitely hard. It's the length that really gets you. It's 2 weeks, and it's 2 weeks of riding at the very limit of your ability. So you're dropping your bike, picking it up, dropping your bike, picking it up, crashing for 2 weeks. So in our course we had guys break their ribs and quit. We had a guy break his foot, he kept going, freaking hero. We had guys break their bikes beyond repair and get out that way, but mostly it's just voluntary withdrawals. People get burnt out and beat up and they're out of it. So the best way to describe something I find is often just to tell a story. So if we can jump to that first video there. So this day started at 6 in the morning. So we went out to a track to do track riding. If you've ridden on track for 4 hours, you know that it's exhausting hanging out at 200 kilometers an hour. After that, we did violator stops. So there was a police officer in civvies in a car who was driving irregularly. We had to pull him over, and then he would enact a variety of situations. One of which was to throw it in reverse and just try to run you over. And it was your job to get out of there. After that, we trained firearms. So if you get out of a car and start shooting at a cop, don't do that. It's not very nice. But if you did do it, what most police officers on a motorcycle will do is this. Shit, and they try to get the kickstand down because it's just habit. So they drill how to draw on the bike, shoot through the windshield if you have to, or step off the bike and let it fall, and then take cover behind the motor block, which is the best place to be. So that was pretty intense. After that, we did a massive escort ride. So you're riding 4 feet from the bike in front of you and 2 feet from the bike beside you, and you're going like that, twice the speed limit for 4 hours, which is some of the most exhausting riding you can do, because if you're not paying attention to within like 0.2 seconds, you crash, which people did. We had guys crash into each other, real life emergencies in the middle of the course, because it's inevitable. But when you're escorting dignitaries and trying to get through an intersection all at once and stay close to who you're supposed to be protecting, then that's important. And so at the very end of this very long day, we arrive here. This cone course was set up for us. It was 1 in the morning. It's an obstacle course where on every cone they've got flashing lights. You chase a squad bike, so it's pretty blinding. At one point in this video, there's a tow truck you might have seen that's coming out at you. It's like Indiana Jones at Disneyland or something. They commandeered that just to scare you a little bit more. And you do it all tired and you do it all fast, because they're trying to make the training as close to the worst case real life scenario as possible. So you're on a double shift, it's late, you're tired, then you get the call and you have to perform. So that's a little bit of what we're doing there. The question then is like, okay, so why should we want to ride like cops? You're all adventurous people. Probably at this point, you're all like, damn, sign me up. Like, this sounds like a ton of fun. It's hard, it's challenging, it's a blast. That's what we're into, and it's true. The unfortunate reality is that the vast majority of us won't get to do training like this. It's very expensive and it's very time consuming. We can't train the masses to ride like police officers. It's a shame, because I would argue that it's maybe the best training for a street rider. So what the police do is they ride at this nexus of how fast they can go and how safe they can be on public, dirty, busy roads. Like, that's where they want to live. And so for street motorcyclists, it's brilliant, right? That's how to have the most fun and live as long as possible to keep doing it. So it should be perfect for us. So try to share a few things that come from the course, and hopefully we can all gain a little something by it. If you can jump to that next video there, we can turn the sun on and see a little bit more of what we're doing. So one of the first things they teach you is 4-finger braking. Police use 4-finger braking. It's weird. As a lifelong off-road guy, I've always been, more fingers on the bars, maybe 1 or 2 on the brakes. Modern bike, just freaking slam it, right? The ABS is gonna interrupt the brake pressure 10 times a second on some motorcycles. How could the human brain possibly compete with that? The answer to that question is in the proposition, right? 10 times a second, you have no brakes. So there's these microseconds, no brakes, no brakes, no brakes, no brakes, of the bike trying not to slide your tire. And when you add those up on aggregate, you get a pretty long braking distance. So we ran this test with a bunch of bikes with ABS and then turned it off. And an average rider, none of us are Fabio Quartararo, average rider can outbrake the ABS system by quite a lot every single time. And so they train this 4-finger braking because you can do an initial pulse to load the front tire and compress the suspension, and then you pull frickin' hard with all 4 fingers. And because you have 4 fingers, you can feel a little bit when it starts to slide. You have more controllability to let it go again. And so you manually manage the slide, and you end up beating your ABS system. Okay, so 4-finger braking. The other thing that they train is 4-finger clutching. So you'll see in some of these maneuvers when I turn right that I'm using all 4 fingers on the clutch. The reason that they teach that is because your throttle in the really tight stuff is a liability. Quarter turn on the throttle is 0 to 30 horsepower on some bikes, like 0 to 90 horsepower. It's far too much for some of this really tight stuff. So they train to just pin the throttle at like 4,000 RPM and leave it there. You lock it and just leave it there. And you use your 4 fingers on the clutch as your modulation of power. So bit in, bit out. It's a lot more tractable. You can speed yourself up and slow yourself down by just laying the clutch in and out that way. The other benefit to using 4 fingers on the clutch is just comfort. I'm a stubborn bastard, so I tried doing this course with 2, because I was like, I know better than this. You absolutely can't hack it. Your fingers get tired, you lose the sensitivity, and when you lose the sensitivity, you start to crash. Beyond that, you're not comfortable. If your hand is comfortable and you're relaxed, you can keep your head up and see where you're going. All of these patterns have to be done in a particular direction, rotational direction, and in a particular order. And there's no map, there's no pictures, there's no signs. They just tell you how you have to do it. You have to remember that information and perform it on the fly. While I'm doing this, if I weren't talking so much, you could hear the instructors yelling at me, "You're not gonna make the time, faster, faster, faster." They're trying to stress you out. You often have a police officer behind you, lights flashing, horns and sirens, trying to freak you out. They want to make it as stressful as possible. And so by using 4 fingers on the clutch, keep your hand relaxed, and you keep yourself relaxed. This one here is bump and go. Again, 4-finger threshold braking. You have to bump the cone without knocking it over and then take off again without putting a foot down. The reason they train that is so police officers can stop fully at stop signs and not look like they're breaking the law, because that's bad. Come to a stop. Failed. Not fast enough. Excellent. Okay, so let's go to the next one and learn a little bit more because we failed and we need to do better. Okay, so 360-degree view. Makes me look like a bobblehead, and you can see my ass, which is the important thing. See my ass is always the important thing, but it's extra important now. So the next thing they train is counter sit. So you can see in the tight maneuvers, I've got one cheek on the seat and another cheek kind of on the side panel. They say heavy on the feet, light on the seat, because you move your whole body over to get through some of the really tight stuff. So shift that weight and push the bike down. You'll see me do it throughout this whole thing. The reason they do that is legion. One of them would be, okay, imagine you have handlebars in front of you, right? And if you turn your bar right and then push that arm all the way down, that's how far they want you to be off the bike. They want your inside arm straight. So you push the bike all the way down here and you counter set your body all the way over here. So then what happens if you have to brake? The bike stands up underneath you. That's comfortable, it's good, right? It's better than if you're hanging off and you hit the brakes, the bike's going away from you. Another reason it's better is because there's a lot of really fast right-left transitions that police officers have to do. And this one is probably a good example. So when you counter sit, your body is neutral up and down. And so you can have the bike down here and then you can switch it, wham, all the way over here and switch back, wham, all the way over here while your body stays in the middle. It's faster and it's also relaxing. If you're leaning off the bike to tighten your radius, then in all these maneuvers you have to lean your body all the way over to the other side and then the bike comes over, and by the time it's there you have to lean back over and it's coming back. So it's slower and it's also just more tiring. Well, one of the motor officers said to me when I was training counter-sitting is he said, "You're disgusting, stop being a disgusting rider." And I said, okay. And then he said, "You're leaning off the bike to tighten your radius, and that's disgusting." And I said, okay, yes, I think I'm getting what you're saying. And he says, oh, this part's a little bit, cover your ears if they're made of porcelain, it's a bit crass. He says, what you need to do is you need to push that motor into the fucking ground. And you ride that motorcycle lower, 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 and push it lower, lower, lower into the fucking ground. Because when you do it, you'll be left sitting on top of the bike, stroking your dick. And I said, okay, this is a lot of information to digest, but what he's getting at is an interesting point, which is when you lean off the bike to go through a corner, when you lose it, that bike's coming down on top of you, right? That crash ends your day, it ends your course, and you're done. The guys who got this wrong, we're done. If you counter sit and you push that bike away from you, you can push it lower, lower, lower and get down to that point where you eventually crash, and now I'm left sitting on top of the bike. This is not catastrophic, but get up and do it again and again. There are loads of guys in the course who crashed 20 or 30 times a day, but they crashed well, and they were able to just keep going on it. These are these bump and goes again. The clip's slightly longer than what I have to say, so we're all going to hear lots about bump and goes. We come around the top of the circular cone weave, again, full throttle, threshold braking, 4 fingers, into the box. There's the guy who's yelling at me and trying to freak me out the whole time. Thumbs up, still failed. Okay, so let's jump to the next one. We'll go on the track here now. So on track, they teach very much the same thing. They call it counter lean, not counter sit, but the principle is the same. You don't move your whole ass over, but to go through a corner, you push the bike away from you and you keep your body upright. We'll see this here. camera here is mounted to my chest, so you can see the horizon stays mostly upright, whereas the bike kind of leans away from me. The reason that they train this technique at high speed is partially the same as what it is at low speed. So you're pushing the bike down, you have to brake suddenly, the bike comes up underneath you. This is good. Same thing, if you have to go fast left, right, that switch is going to be more comfortable and faster if your body's upright and you're pushing the bike. So that's a piece of it as well. But there's two big ones that come into play at high speed that we didn't have recently. One of them is the ability to save a slide. So if you have your imaginary motorcycle and you're leaning off of it to go through a corner, the only way this system is balanced is the centripetal force on the tires. So if I lose that, if the tires slide because I hit gravel or oil or whatever, and we fall down and we crash. If you counter lean, so you push the bike down and you're leaning the other way, then the system is neutral. So you can lose the tires and slide, but you'll stay upright. So you have a good chance of saving that slide if you counter lean. A lot of you probably experienced this today because some sadistic bastard cut a bunch of off-camber turns into the adventure trail back here. And it helps a lot if you lean the bike and lean your body the other way, because you can slide it around there without crashing. The other big reason that they train counter-leaning at high speed is visibility. So if I'm riding my imaginary motorcycle again and I'm leaning off, what can I see? Like a little bit left, dick all over here because the bike is here, and dick all behind me because I can't see my mirrors. So this is not so good if you're trying to track a violator or a threat or a dignitary that you're escorting. You have to be able to see them. So they counter lean because it keeps their bodies up high. They can see 180 degrees in front of them, and they can see their mirrors, so they can see a few degrees behind as well. So that's why they sit nice and high and upright, pushing the bike away from them through the turns. This is quite a controversial opinion. We made a video about this a few years back, and it caused a shitstorm because everybody was very quick to point out that Marc Marquez, and everybody like him who races, leans into turns, which is absolutely true. When you lean into a turn, your body is adding cornering force, so the bike doesn't have to do as much. So the bike doesn't have to lean as far because I'm leaning. So that gains you back some degrees of lean angle. You have a few more degrees before you run out of tire. You have a few more degrees before you hit the peg. And it's absolutely faster. There's no doubt in my mind it's faster. But police don't have to arrive at a crime scene 0.6 of a second faster, right? They have to arrive alive. They have to not be another emergency for emergency crews to go deal with. So they counter lean. And it means that you can't ride quite as fast, but it's still plenty fast enough. Like this here is probably, on the back straight of this is probably maybe 3 times the speed limit, through the corners maybe twice the speed limit. Like that's plenty, right? You could do more on something that wasn't a 1980s Silverwing, but it's enough, right? So they train counter leaning. Okay, and have I said everything I want to about that? I think. Yes. All right, let's go to the next video. So we've put together our pieces. Actually, if you could pause it on this, that'd be great. So we have 4-finger braking, right? 4-finger threshold braking. You able to pause that by any chance? Beauty. We have 4-finger threshold braking. We have 4-finger clutching. We have our counter sit in the tight maneuvers, and we have our counter lean in the high speed ones. So we're gonna put it all together in something called the EOC. Do you think you could scrub back to the very beginning where we can see the drone shot? Yeah, that's it. So this is what you have to pass if you actually want to certify as a police officer. One of the cops will run it at his fastest pace, and you have to run it within a certain margin of that to pass. So it's basically an obstacle course that puts together everything that we've been talking about so far. EOC is the Emergency Operators Course. Okay, so let's play it. We'll just kind of walk through this thing. So we're gonna 180 coming out of the box here to start. Hard on the throttle, full throttle, and then hard on that threshold braking into the keyhole. This is a kind of a tight 180 going through there, and then coming back down the straight, Cops chasing me, yelling at me, trying to distract me. We go back into the 180, again, threshold brakes, and then we go into the offset cone weave. This is designed to put you on the edge. So by the end of the week, there was like a solid black mark through here from everyone sliding their front and rear tires through it. You can see in some of these shots, we'll be kind of right on the edge of the tire. And so if we're counter sitting and our system is neutral, then we can hold that slide and not crash going through there. Otherwise, there's a lot of people who crash going through the offset cone weave, because if you're doing it fast, it should put you right on the limit of what your bike can do. We come out of here and go back into the keyhole. Did you remember which direction I did it? Because if you don't do it in the opposite direction the second time, you fail. So we come back out of there and we go into the WSP. WSP is named for the Washington State Police. They claim to have invented this, but if you're paying attention, you'll notice that it's just a figure eight, and I'm not sure they can claim to have invented the figure eight. But there we go. So we come out of there and into the circular cone weave. You're allowed to kill cones, but every cone you hit is 5 seconds. If you kill one, you might pass. If you kill two, you'll definitely fail. The margin's not that big. If you ride out of pattern, you fail. You put a foot down, you fail. You do the wrong direction in a pattern, rotational direction, you'll fail that as well. So here we go again, doing the opposite direction the second time through. This is kind of like full lock, full lean. You're pushing that bike really low, otherwise the radius just won't do it. Here we're coming fastest corner, and you see that dirty splotch across it. So that was like just a bunch of grime. It's the fastest corner on the whole course, and there's that metal fence right beside it. And so I brought it up. I was like, hey, this is super dangerous. Why don't we just twist the whole pattern 90 degrees and we wouldn't have this accident waiting to happen. And they said, you're disgusting, and it's better for you to crash here where we have an ambulance waiting for you than to crash in the real world, so know your risk and adjust. So, okay, fair enough. Here we've gone into intersection. Intersection is a very practical pattern. If you were like shutting down traffic in all four directions, you might ride something like this in the real world, round the cone, and then heading back in to do it in the other direction. Lots of fast left, right, so again, we're keeping our body upright so we can push the bike hard left, hard right, hard left, hard right, and do that as fast as possible. So counter sitting and counter leaning, and I've pinned that throttle on the tack. You'll see it's sitting at like 5,000 RPM, so the throttle is just staying there. It's not functional. I'm using the clutch with all four fingers on it to modulate my power. Come around this cone, around the top into the bump and goes, just so cops can look cool and like they're not breaking the law every time they come to a stop sign. So threshold braking, bump the cone, but you can't knock it over. Never put a foot down. And then we go around the top of the circular cone weave, hard on the throttle again, and then threshold braking into the box. And you know, what's the time? Did you pass? We'll leave that for the final video. I don't want to give away everything at once. But that's the EOC. You can pause it there if you want. So, okay, super fun. Maybe the hardest 2 weeks I've spent on a bike, definitely the most fun 2 weeks I've spent on a bike. It's sort of a tough, sad thing now. I'd love to say like, oh, you know, go do this. But, you know, the reality is most police forces don't open their training to civilians. The company that does this, Advanced Rider Training, does. Their main prerogative is still to train the police, so the civvy spots are really limited. If you're lucky enough and you have the time and the financial freedom to go and do it, it would be fantastic. You'll be in the course with a bunch of cops on their service bikes, which they give zero shits about. So it's a bit of an unfair advantage, although the RCMP and RSU use Harleys, so okay, handicapped. But anyway, okay. So I'd recommend that you go do it, but that's a bit of a thin recommendation. So what we can do instead is there was an evening where I went out to the top super secret police patterns, and I brought my top super secret tape measure and I measured them. And then what I did is I drew them, and I took all the top super secret patterns to the library in Stratford, and I made like 100 photocopies. So I'm just kidding. This is all clear with the cops. I've got a bunch of copies. We can let me grab them actually. We can start them going. That way you guys don't have to get up. Beauty. Yeah, kind of take some, pass it on, sort of school style. If you don't manage to get one, just come find me at some point. I'll have one in my pocket all weekend. and you can take a photograph of it, or you can shoot anyone else's who grabs one. The easiest way to do this, by the way, is to get like an old bag of tennis balls, because they're really cheap, and cut them in half. They're bright, they sit on the pavement nice. You can go out to a parking lot with the pattern dimensions, make it, and run it once. If you can do that, make it a little smaller. If you can do that, make it a little smaller. If you can do that, try to run a little faster. Don't do it all at once. Don't nuke the entire Tesco's parking lot to run a full-speed EOC course. That would be unpopular. One pattern at a time would maybe be the advised method. But if you do, you'll be extremely comfortable on your motorcycle. I think you'll have some of the most fun you've had on a motorcycle. At the very least, that nice tight U-turn out of the Starbucks parking lot, it'll look super cool, and all your friends will be talking about how much of a baller you are as you ride off. So I sort of highly recommend that. That's sort of it. Thank you very much for coming. I look forward to this all year. This is sort of my favorite thing to go to, and the only reason they invite me back is because you guys are kind enough to come and listen to me. So I seriously appreciate all of you guys being here. Thank you very much. And if we have time, we can. Do we have time for Q&A?
I think we have time for a couple of questions.
Beautiful.
Questions. Cool.
Hi Ryan.
Hello.
Last year when you were here, you said about content and how much you dump her out.
Yes, sir.
Lately it's constant. What's the change of mind on that?
Yeah, we found this guy called 43, and he's making videos with us now, which frees me up to make a little bit faster. The other thing that happened is, so because we hired a second host, we hired a second shooter, who's a fantastic genius of a man who makes everything look good, and without him I would be completely useless. But this guy is going away for an extended trip, and so I knew I had to shoot like bang, 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 bang. And so we shot a bunch of content really, really fast, and that's why we have kind of a wealth of uploads right now. But short answer, we're trying to get like one a week, maybe one every two. So hopefully we'll just have more going forward. Always quality over quantity, though. We're not too fussed about numbers.
Are you going to be going to any other events, either in the UK or elsewhere, like this year or next year? Is there anything other than the ABR that you're interested in going to or planning on going to?
Probably not, actually.
Woo! Go ABR!
Yeah, I know, right? It is legitimately just that good. I'm a bit of a homebod. I like to just chill and read my books and hang out with my family. So yeah, I tend to say no to most travel opportunities because we're on the road often for shoots. So I'm often away like 4 or 5 days shooting around in Canada. So it means that I try not to go away as much on my time off. Yes,
Hey
sir.
Ryan,
Hello.
would you say that this or the trials riding is better for off-road skill set?
For off-road, trials. For on-road, release.
Any other questions? Can see any hands? Where was the hand?
Hi Ryan, welcome back.
Thank you.
Did you end up actually buying that Desert X? And if you did, how are you getting on with it?
Yes. No. I pledged my allegiance to a piece of pizza and a picture of Casey Stoner. It turns out that doesn't get you a Desert X. It worked well for our Godfather montage, but my boss bought a Desert X. The Beamer was also a FortNine bike, so I tend to use these things a lot. Our sentiment is exactly the same. We think it's the best adventure bike for an all-around choice, which is why my boss bought one. They're fantastic. I personally am addicted to like old pieces of shit, and so I have at any given time like usually like 4, 5, 6 bikes, and they're all like $2,000 because that's the only way you can afford to have 4, 5, 6 bikes. So yeah, no $20,000 Ducati. Yeah, sorry Ducati.
Hi Ryan, I'm here. I'm only little.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, am I the only one you caught out with the cheese video?
What's that?
Am I the only one that you caught out with the cheese video?
No. Thank you for asking. I met a guy. I was going to pick up a Kawasaki that we have a video coming out with very soon, and I met a guy in there who's Canadian and should absolutely know what April Fool's is, and he wasn't born yesterday, and he was like are you guys doing cooking content now? Like, don't get me wrong, it was cool, but like, I don't know. And it warmed my heart because that's what we were going for. Like, we wanted to just kind of weird people out and do something completely left field. So yeah, you're not alone. You aren't the only one. Yeah, there you go.
One more question, and then we're out of time.
Hi Ryan, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
So my question is about FortNine.
Yes.
You are the face of FortNine, and when 43 came along, there were a lot of people quite rightly concerned that you were no longer going to be on FortNine. Does that give your boss a headache, and is your paycheck really, really massive?
Easy part first, my paycheck is not very massive. I'd be aware if it was, I would think. Does it give my boss a headache? Hard to say. We never really expected the YouTube channel to be as successful as it has. I think there was a part a few years in where we were like, ooh shit, we've kind of like built the company brand around a person, which is not very tenable. Like normally, FortNine's a big company, right? They're like a sportbikeshop.co.uk or Revzilla. It's 80 people and a distributor, and so you kind of want to build your brand around something that's not gonna, retire and go write books in Ireland for the rest of his life. So yeah, I imagine it gave him a little bit of a headache. Having said that, I have no imminent plans to leave. Yeah, 43 is a good dude. We like him a lot, and we're excited to just make more stuff with him.
Amazing. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. Can we give him
Very
a
good.
round of applause?
Thank you. Thank you very much.